I'm Marsha Chan, and we are doing a session called Using Discussion Boards for Graded Assignments. I'm going to be talking about or showing you some examples that I used in 3 of my classes, which were taught online through Mission College and in a learning management system. Now the system is called Canvas, or that's the system that's being used. But at the time that I taught these courses, they were done through Angel Learning, which is also a learning management system, an LMS. It doesn't really matter what system you use, if you're using Google Classroom or you're using Moodle or whatever. The idea is, what kind of assignments can we give our students when they're in different levels or different focuses, language focuses. So I think what I'd like to do is start right here in the middle with the low intermediate listening and culture. One of the things to think about is, what is the purpose of the class? What is the curricular purpose of the class? What are the things that you're supposed to teach in this class? So I'm going to show you the low intermediate listening culture online course outline, and it shows that this is a second semester of a 1-year course designed to help the low intermediate student develop and strengthen strategies for communicating in the English language. Although some strategies for speaking are available, the emphasis is on developing skills in listening and, to a lesser degree, a lesser extent, writing. Topics of American culture are covered, and students have to have access to all those good things like computer, microphone, etc. Then our student learning outcomes. Students will demonstrate comprehension of English conversations tailored to the low intermediate learner on topics such as technology and natural landscapes. Students will recognize and practice language functions such as being a supportive listener and giving advice. Students will role-play dialogues containing questions and statements with attention to pronunciation, stress, and intonation, and then all the other stuff that I usually put into a course outline with how much grades are and how much the work. Now, we were using an online course book called Touchstone, and I also integrated a few other additional assignments of my own into it, but I used a lot from here. And then I tried to tailor it for our audience and for what was available in our learning management system. So there was a lot of material in the courseware itself where students did stuff online, because this is a whole course that was all online, and they would listen to passages, and they have listening passages that were including dialogues and monologues and narratives. They had grammar things to do to fill in the blank. They had listening and a lot of online workbook kinds of exercises. So that was already in the courseware that we were using. I don't know if that's your case or not. You may have regular paper textbooks, or you may have to present a lot of your own materials. In my case, what I wanted to do was to bring the discussion board into use so that there would be more interaction as a class. The students could do the Touchstone online course basically as an individual learning thing, where just, the teacher give an assignment, and then the students do the assignment, and the teacher receives the grades, and then this teacher math. But I thought that doesn't help create community, and it doesn't help, have students interact with one another. So obviously there's oral interaction, but here I wanted to focus on, because we're talking about discussion boards, and of course discussion board now means typing discussion boards. So I wanted to make the learning objectives to use some of the oral strategy, the communication strategies that we were learning in each unit, and add in the cultural elements or the theme of the unit into the writing assignments. So I'm going to show you some examples that I did with students in the low intermediate listening and culture class. See if I can find it. How about this? Okay. We call them blog topics only because that was the nomenclature that was used in the learning material that we were using called Touchstone, and they called it blog topics because I suppose there is a whole management system with that course group, and I had to use that management system along with my own college management system and bring in grades and information from it so that it would come into the one the college used, so then it would then be exported out to grades for the college. So I had to manage 2 LMSs. But in the one that we were using, which was at the time Angel Learning, as I said, could be Google, it could be Moodle, it could be Canvas. For example, I gave them, the very first one was Unit 1. The title was called The Way We Are, and the lesson part was called Little Known Facts. So I had them do this activity to write their little personal profile. I said, what are 5 things that people don't know about you? Write a profile or a short description about yourself and use vocabulary and grammar from Unit 1. So that's one of the things that I said, okay, how we tie in the language is use the grammar and the vocabulary from that unit. Then I asked them to insert your photo, use the directions that I gave them in another piece about how to download the photo and upload it into it. So this was in addition to what they had to do in the online coursework, which there were lessons and workbook. So this was totally within my own LMS discussion board thread. So I created one thread for each unit. So this one, the post was supposed to be 5 facts that you don't know about, and then you're supposed to enter your name. So what I did was I gave an example that was not acceptable and an example that was acceptable. So the example that was not acceptable wasn't unacceptable because it was bad grammar and bad vocabulary. In fact, all of those sentences are totally comprehensible and grammatical. My name is Niang Nguyen. I am Vietnamese. I come from Vietnam. I'm taking ESL 940 LS. I'm learning English. So I gave this example and I said, well, yeah, these sentences are grammatical but very short. They don't use vocabulary from Unit 1. They're too obvious. You don't need to write your name because your name's already attached to your post. Almost everyone from Vietnam is Vietnamese. Everyone in this class is taking ESL 940 LS. Everyone is learning English. So these are kind of obvious things. So then I said, okay, here's a good example. And somebody wrote this. I was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. I moved to Barranquilla at the age of 10 because my father changed jobs, and I can be very competitive. I like to win at everything, especially in sports. I have impeccable taste in clothes. Do you need advice on what to wear? Ask me. I'm very supportive of my friends and family. If they're passionate about something, I say, go for it. And so I commented that the content of these sentences is suitable and interesting. The sentences are long and grammatical. They include vocabulary from Unit 1. So I don't remember whether I gave 5 points for these things or not, but I gave a 5 out of 5 for this. Does that make sense? So,
yes.
It kind of like, it tells you, if you give an assignment, you give some qualifications for it, right? So if you just say, write about your family, well, that's like really huge, right? So you can write about your family and use this vocabulary or use these expressions. So this is an example where I just said, okay, write 5 sentences, okay? And each unit, I had them do something different, all right? So for example, Unit 3 was about wonders of the world. So they could choose, I gave them choices too, because not everybody wants to write about the same thing. So write about the most famous person, politician, scientist, artist from your country or your state or region, most interesting place, the worst vacation, the most important things to do. So these are some choices. And then I asked them to write a certain length, right? So in my students of this level, I suggested 75 to 100 words, whereas, you know, for lower level students, it could be less. For higher level students, it could be more. But that way they get an idea of how much time they need to spend on it, or how much time in words they need to write about something. And it also helps you, because sometimes you'll get students who will write just a short sentence and others who will want to write their whole story. And you don't really have time or interest in reading their whole story at this moment. So there's just some extra things that you want to tell them if you have certain grammatical points that you want them to do, like use a superlative, I said. Use superlative adjectives, the most blah, 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 or the somethingest, to describe the person or place. So this lesson they had been studying included adjectives, superlative adjectives. And then I said, okay, now not only should you write them, but you should underline them. So in your discussion boards, typically you have the ability to do text formatting, right? So just like you're writing on this Word document, you have the ability to underline, right? You could take that and underline it. And each system is a little bit different, but they all have something that's formatting. Whether you ask your students to do that depends on how advanced they are in technology and how advanced you are, and enable to, you know, your ability to explain to them and demonstrate them how to do it. So you would have to really be keyed into what your students are capable of, and before you start expecting them to do certain things. So I guide them by saying, click new post, because that's how they shouldn't reply to me. Like I put my model out there, or I'll put my assignment. So usually I will be the first poster with all of the assignments on it, and then they have to click new post so that theirs will start a new sub-thread or a new thread within this unit. And then I gave some examples. Now, each of these posts are their own original writing, and then they are required to go back at some time and post it to others. Just, I think, like Janie said in the class that you're taking right now, right? So what kind of expectations do I have at this point? If they're in this particular class, I don't have very high expectations of how they're going to respond to other posters. But for more advanced students, I have higher expectations, right? So this is an example. These are some examples of what I did with students who are at the low intermediate level in terms of doing the assignments. I'm going to stop here and ask if you guys have any questions, if you'd like to chime in with something here, or if you'd like to see assignments for the class below this.
Hey, Marsha, I'd be very interested in seeing other assignments too.
Yes.
Other assignments. Okay, well, let's take a look at, let's see.
For example, I'm doing an advanced writing and grammar class, and we're reading a novel by Reina Grande, and I'm having them do words about each chapter with vocabulary and WH questions and annotation and stuff like that.
Okay. So let me get a sense of who's doing higher and who's doing lower classes, lower level classes. How many of you are doing classes for lower level students?
I am. How do I record that?
Oh, okay. So how about, let's try using our
Raise hand.
Yeah. You know, if you click on manage participants, I believe you will be able to see a hand, and you can raise your hand to say, yes, I have low level students. Okay, so it looks like Eva and Daniel have low level students. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Correct.
Yep. Did those give you enough ideas, or do you need to see something lower than that? because that's one more class lower I have.
I
Maybe
would
what I
like,
would
go
appreciate
ahead.
is if we can see it like in the context of a platform, like to have a better idea of how you would be using it in context.
Okay, I can't show it to you in a platform. Here's the reason. I'm retired. Do I look retired? I'm retired. I don't teach it. I'm so retired. Okay. I no longer teach, so I no longer have access. I would love to show you. I created hundreds and hundreds of learning objects. And when I left, my colleagues said, "Oh God, would you leave those all for me?" So I left a lot of stuff that are there. And I actually, as soon as everybody shut down classes, and my colleagues called me and said, "Marsha, I have to go online. Can you help me?" And I go, "Yeah, sure. Here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to show you just a few things that I did at the next class lower, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the time on the advanced class." Okay?
Okay,
Sound good? All right.
yes.
So 930 LC was the one that's called high beginner listening. Okay. So let's see, here's one called Making Friends. First, complete the online activities for the unit 1 in that Cambridge LMS, and then write sentences about yourself here. Here are the sentence stems. The sentence stems that I asked them to use. I love to blah, blah, blah. I often blah, blah, blah. I'm not a fan of blah, 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 ing. I can't stand blah, 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 ing. Yeah, so these are some of the phrases or sentences that they practiced in the unit. So here's my example, and this is what I posted. Marsha's
Nice.
food. I love Chinese food. I often go to Asia Village restaurant. I'm not a fan of Indian food. Oh, okay, so it wasn't a gerund, it was a noun. I can't stand very spicy food. Okay, so it wasn't gerund, it was nouns. Okay, these are all nouns here. So that's 24 words, and I said you can write more if you want, but it's not required. Because, you know, in your class, you have people of different strengths and different lengths and different abilities, right? So some people, basically because it was that level, I thought, well, this is the minimum that they should be able to write, but let's look at what other things you could do. I love Chinese food, especially love the Chinese food that my husband cooks for my family, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I gave an example of expansion on each one of those subjects, right? So then I made it kind of funny, and they could laugh at it, and they could go, oh, okay, so I can write that much. And that was 62 words, which, you know, it's a good amount that I think the students at that level might try. Does that make sense? Okay. So
Yes.
yeah.
Marsha, is there some way to integrate this so they're actually saying it, you know, in a video form? Because I noticed that there's a little media button. I'm not sure if it's in discussion board, but I think it is.
Okay, so
Where they can
I'm not
talk.
gonna, I'll tell you that I'm gonna only talk about discussion boards that are written, all right? There's a
Written.
whole
Okay,
lot
that's fine.
whole lot of stuff that you can do with oral. I mean, that's one of my things to do as the pronunciation doctor, is talk about speaking. But I don't want to talk about it here, because then I'll get away from the discussion board, which is the discussion.
Right.
Okay.
I understand.
So I think the answer is yes, but I'm not going to talk about it here. Okay. So I just want to give you some ideas of what I gave out. All right. So I gave out the assignment, and then I tried to be as specific as I could about what I wanted them to do with this writing. So I said how many to write, 40 to 50 words, 4 or 5 sentences, about one topic, and link your ideas with these connectors, but, because, and, or. Use these adverbs, especially, and also, right? So then I give an example, right? I like to work very hard, but I also like to take time to exercise. Exercise is important because it keeps my body and my mind healthy. Sometimes I go to the gym to participate in a Zumba class, or use the elliptical or other machines. And other times I go to the swimming pool to swim laps. I go hiking in the mountains with my family, especially when it's not raining. Right? So I give an example, and I use all the points that I'm asking them to use. I think giving examples is really important. So I do that for every writing assignment. Sometimes it's fill in the blank, right? Oh, basically it's sentence stems. You give them a sentence, I need to relax when, the best way to relax is what, the worst way to relax is something, all right? So then I write how Marsha Chan likes to relax. I do such and such a way. So each one of these is something that I give the assignment, I tell what the topic is. If there's a length, I'll tell what the limitations are. If there are certain grammar points or vocabulary or language functions that should use, I list them. Then I give a model. And that way the students can really follow along very well. The more you give them in terms of the parameters of their writing assignment, the better writing you will get. Okay, so these are just some examples. Okay, and this is the longest thing I wrote. I wrote 138 words. You can write less. 50 words is enough. Okay, so I blather because I talk a lot and I write a lot. So I wrote a lot here, but then I also said, you don't have to do that. Right, here's an example. They love to see my examples. It really helps them to see how language is used, besides learning, well, about their teacher and about how words are put together using the vocabulary that, or the language functions that they have just practiced learning in the other sections. So if you tie it in, I mean, you tie it into some other things that you're doing, or you create it by yourself, because these could be freestanding, right? They could be freestanding assignments. When I look at them now and I think, well, what if they hadn't done that other stuff where you were supposed to do all the workbook? And well, maybe they already have some facility with it, or maybe from reading each other's assignments, they have some guidelines. So you could also try it even if you're not using another course book. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a quick question, Marsha,
Yeah,
about
please
the
do,
grading the discussion? So I'm wondering about, like, how many points would you give for a discussion board? Is it like 10 points for each time they post, and that 10 points just kind of depends on how much they follow your directions?
Okay, that's a good question. So then I say go back to your course outline. If you are doing a course that's like, if you're in a credit course, and you probably have a curriculum, right?
Yes.
So then you have to know how much of it is on this and how much of it on that. So this was called listening and culture, right? This class is called listening and culture. So I don't feel I can have a lot based on writing. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I mean, I probably have to dig through on my rubrics and my grading and stuff to see if I said, okay, discussion board stuff is worth 5 points or 10% or, you know, something like that. But it would be rather small in relation to the other assignments that I gave. And I'm not even showing you all my listening assignment because this is a listening class. And, you know, they had a lot of other stuff where they had to listen. And, okay, I'm going to stay away from the auditory because I could get stuck there easily. I just want to show you that little part. So that's very different from my advanced grammar and editing class, right? So how many of you, okay, we're gonna take all the hands down. How do we take all the hands down? You may now go into your hand raising thingy and tell me if you are, or show us your hand, if you are teaching at an advanced level. How many of you are teaching at an advanced level? Any hands? There's Sarah. Okay. And Sarah's the only one? Is that right? And everybody else?
Get a thumbs up.
Oh, okay. So we were looking, I was looking for blue hand. Blue hand. blue hand. That's what I was looking for in the participation.
How's that?
Oh, Fung, you got your hand up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Danielle says no.
Can you walk us through how you would want the students to post their discussions? Where and I mean, where would you post the discussion board, and how the students post on your your discussion board
I,
or blog?
as I mentioned, I wish very much that I could take you into my class, but when I retired, I got lost. I got disconnected. So I'm no longer able to get into Canvas.
Okay, so you
so-
use
so when
Canvas.
Yes. Well, at Mission College, we use Canvas. And
Okay.
before I retired, I did everything in a whole bunch of, I've been through so many LMSs. The previous one was Angel Learning, and we also had Blackboard. And when I first started teaching online, okay, first of all, let me tell you, I've been doing distance learning since 1986. Okay, and that was with this. Do you remember what this is? Okay, I was on one-way video, two-way audio back in the day, okay? And then when we got internet, whoa, we got the web, then I started going on, then I was mixing and matching, and I was doing all these things before there was anything called a content management or learning management system. And now I've graduated from those things I don't have access to. So I can't show you exactly how it is, but I can tell you and describe it and see if it makes sense. When you are in your learning management system, there is certainly a place that says discussion boards. And when you go to your discussion boards, then you have this, it's like this big old room where you can design how it looks and how many things you want to have in there. So when I did it, I would go, depending on what the class was, I'd go in there and I'd create all these folders, right? And some teachers like to do folders by week 1, week 2, and week 3. And others like to do by topic X, topic Y, and topic Z. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of ways for you to set it up. It's like your drawers. I mean, I don't know about your drawers, but they probably don't look like mine because you organize them a little bit differently. But there's an organization system. So you could organize it by unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. And in unit 1, this is unit 1 per topic, unit 2 per topic. And then inside of there, you post a new post, a new discussion or new post, and you put up the assignment. So remember I showed you a bunch of assignments? So you would put the assignment up there with all the things that the students are supposed to do and write and da 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 da. And then you say, click new post and put your title there. I give them, I mean, I think of all the little tiny steps that they have to do because especially if they're lower technology level, they need to know every single step. So I try to give them as many steps as are necessary for those particular learners and then have them post it there. When the students all start posting, then it'll populate, right? And everybody's posting, just like all of us here are in the room now, and if we all posted something, then we'd all be able to see each other's posts. So I always talk about writing as a public, sort of public thing. In other words, when we write anything, we typically write for other people to see it. Not only as a book publisher, I mean, like in that case, of course, I want a lot of people to see it, but also when we do any kind of memo writing in work, it often goes to lots of people. So I like to get the students to feel that they're not writing a personal diary or a personal letter to just their teacher, but they're writing to the whole class, and that whole class can learn from each other. And learning can be about content as well as method of delivery. And then in terms of language, it's about vocabulary and writing and grammar and uses of phrases and so on. Okay, now, because I'm aware of the people who are doing the advanced classes, and maybe you two will get there and have a class like that, then I want to show you.
Question is, how many discussions should I be assigning per week? I've got a 6-unit course. So the students obviously are not going to be seeing me as many hours in the classroom anymore. I'm not really sure how much time they're going to be spending online with me. I'm going to try to hold a certain time frame online with Zoom so they can see me. but I want to know, would it be fair to do 2 discussions per week? Should I do more than that? Should I do like a discussion for every single day, or what do you think is fair?
Are you teaching a college class?
I am. It's a credit ESL class.
That's a credit ESL class. Okay. So let me tell you what I did, and then we can go from there. All right. So in my class called Advanced Grammar and Editing, it's no longer a class. I mean, after I retired, I mean, the teachers changed the curriculum, so it's a little bit different. But the idea was that, you know, like students have been attending a lot of grammar classes all the way up, and they still didn't have a handle on grammar. You notice that happening sometimes? And you're supposed to be teaching them how to write paragraphs and whatnot, and they still need help with their grammar. So this was supposed to be a grammar review and editing focus. And I gave them, we were using a textbook that went through different time frames. So there was verbs in the present time frame, verbs in the past time frame. This one was obviously about passive sentences. We were working on passive voice. All right. So I taught them a bit about using LexTutor, which is the helps you with your vocabulary. So I said, you know, like we need to use academic vocabulary. We did a lot with vocabulary things. I had all of their, what you would consider writing assignments that maybe some teachers ask students to hand in personally, and then you grade them and give them that. I decided that they needed to hand them in by publishing them to the class. And this again is my take on writing, that writing is not for one person. Writing is for many people. There are very few times where we do writing for one person, but many times in life where we have to write for others. So that's why I said it's a good idea for you in this class to be able to write and let everybody see and let everybody learn. So here's my assignment: to compose an academically written paragraph of 150 to 175 words using action in any time frame. Now this came later in the semester after we'd gone over different verb and time frames. And this is what I wrote. You know, use both active and passive voices. Don't use a passive voice for state. Well, this is a reminder. Don't use it for stative verbs or intransitive verbs. Put a side title in there and capitalize your title appropriately. Let's see, I said, oh yeah. So we'd worked on different types of sentences: simple sentences, compound sentences, complex, and compound complex. So by this time, I'm asking them to use a variety of sentence types, not all simple sentences, or not just all one kind. And to basically to incorporate all the grammar and structures that are presented thus far in Grammar Sense. I guess that was the book I was using then. And we had evidently already covered these chapters, these topics. Covered, you know what covered means. It means we reviewed those things, but maybe they've had different ways of feeling comfortable with it. Now here's an extra that I think is really helpful, that they should examine the vocabulary in their writing by using the web vocabulary profiler. Are you familiar with this in the Complete Tutor? This is an excellent resource. I will show you in just a moment. When you put your writing into the web vocabulary profiler, then they will come up in different colors. Blue will be K1, which means the first 1,000 words, and K2 are the second 1,000 words. Yellow words are academic word list words, and then red means they're just not on any of the corpora, any of the thousands or millions of words of English that have been used to put into the whole system to analyze the most common 1,000, the second most common green ones, the academic words, the most common academic words, and words that are not on this list. Okay, so here is a student who wrote her topic called how the memory works. All right, so I'm not going to read it to you. You can see it, and you can see how I annotated it. I put footnotes in it. So what I did was, once the students posted the paragraph to the discussion board, I then took their paragraph out of the discussion board and I pasted it into my own Word document. So here's my Word document. I read through it. You can see that this student did the underlining of the passive voice as requested. And she wrote within the frame of words, which was 179. I went through it with footnotes. Do you know how to do that? I put in footnotes, and that's where I made my comments on whether the determiner is a problem, if there's a word order issue, subject verb agreement, wrong word, wrong form. These are which I use, and I have a chart for, and maybe you have something similar in terms of abbreviations for editing. So I used those and then posted it. So here is what I found when this is putting this into the web vocabulary profiler, and this shows 82% are K1 words, 6% K2. Academic word list words are 6%, and so on. And here's my comment. This paragraph's a good example of an academic topic. That was the first thing I told them that they had to be, you know. And the use of passive voice is appropriate. The sentence types are varied and interesting. The submission includes the number of words and is slightly over the specified limit of 175. The percentages are for K1, K2, WL, and off list are listed. The paragraph meets the target of at least 5% words from the academic word list. Great job. So by this time in the semester, which is, I would say, the last third of the semester, I had taught them more and more about how to use the AWL, the web vocabulary list. And this is the time I actually gave them a target to have at least 5% from the academic word list. And here is an example about sushi. Again, with my comments after I pulled it out of the discussion board and put it into a Word document so that I could add footnotes for editing. And she gave me the profile as in this target, what do you call it, like a table format. And I gave my commentary here in red. This one had a few more things to say about writing. I wrote, for example, some short, simple sentences can be joined and repetitious elements can be omitted. And I gave an example. Sushi is made from rice that is mixed with vinegar. And then I also said the word things is very vague and overused, and try to find more specific words such as ingredients. Some sentences are unclear. For example, perhaps you mean sushi is created in various shapes and styles. So I didn't mark up the words on, you know, like you would with a red pen on the paper itself, like we did in the old days on paper. You can do that, but I found that this way keeps the whole context together of what they were writing. And then I tried to write this below as a means of guiding them to edit their writing. Okay, so that's what I did. Some students actually wrote down which words were in the AWL. And I always tried to write a personal, you know, like a complete summary of what I thought they did well and what they could do to edit it, make it even better. Now, those are some good examples. And then we get down to, let me see if we have any less good examples. Okay, what does this one say? This one is called the enormous strom. which we think is not storm, but storm. So this is an example of one of the writers, and when put into the web vocabulary profiler, this is what it looks like. These are the common words. The most common 1,000 words are in blue, K1 words. The second most common are the K2 at green. The yellow ones, which you can't see very well here, are the academic words. And those that don't, that are not common enough to be on the in the list are in red. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're less common. This is all about frequency. This is all about word frequency. Okay, so I guess my comment was kind of long, but I always want to start out with something positive. Well, okay, so it includes the number of words and it's written within the specific limit, and the things are listed. So I tried to start out with what things the student has done well, and then go on with the bad news, if there's any bad news, or things that they could improve. And you can see that I put their grade here for me. It's not going on the board. So what happens is then I went back to each of the discussion board posts, and I posted this as a response, as a reply. Now, some teachers might not like to do this. I did it because I think that everything is a learning experience, and everybody has the opportunity, if they wish, to learn from others' mistakes. I mean, lots of times it's easier to see other people's than their own, or my own, you know what I'm talking about? So I did post them, but I never put up their grades. All right, so these are some examples of what I did. I pasted that text here. And now we get a lot of data on the percent of words that are used in this passage. So this is a whole lesson that, I don't have time to show you right now. It's an excellent source. LexTutor, I would say, if you have time, you should explore LexTutor. And it has an enormous number of functions that will help with you as a writer, if you like to write, and you as a teacher of writing, to help students with knowing what their vocabulary is. Because lots of times there's no way of, they think there's no way to know if they're using the right words, or how what is how do they know that the level of their vocabulary? This is an excellent way to find out the level of vocabulary. So that's how you can integrate that, and you can do this in your advanced or intermediate writing, grammar, and reading classes, I would meant. Okay, so I've spoken a lot, and I would like to give you a chance to speak up and say whatever you'd like.
I got a quick question, if you don't mind, Marsha. It's about the sentences that come out sometimes that students write that sound either really crazy or incoherent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out, how do I say something positive to those people? And others, of course, are writing really clear things. What do you do in the case of incoherence?
First of all, you go like, ah! Except
Okay.
it's right. But sometimes it's helpful to talk to yourself. Like you get your feelings out, you go like, oh, I do not know what this means. And then you go like, okay, I think you mean something, 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 something. Or
Okay.
Sometimes what I'll do is, if it's like ambiguous,
Right.
and I'll go this way. Do you mean blah, 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 or do you mean da, 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 da? And then I'll give them like these choices, like a two-pronged choice. Is it A or B? And sometimes it is one of those things. Usually it's one of those, because usually if you've had enough experience with working with ESL learners, then you can sort of sometimes figure it out, and then it could be either A or B. There are some times, though, that I have pulled out many hairs and I still have not come out with something. But that's not very often. It's really not very often. Mostly it's I can figure it out, but they have written it badly. And then I have to do these like mini lessons. So one of the things that I think is helpful, the reason that I like to post back my comments on the discussion board within this whole class. So it's not like it's not public in the sense that everybody in the world is looking at it. It's a public in the sense that other classmates can look at it if they want, but it's not required. They can learn from each other because they might be able to say, oh, I make that mistake too, and this is what something I can learn. But you can offer suggestions.
Okay.
You're not sure. Anybody else have any ideas about that? So after going through a lot of different ways of trying to comment on students' work, I decided that using footnotes was the least intrusive. I mean, I felt like I was intruding every time I put footnote, but it was a small little thing that was in a small number, and then they could jump to another place to find out what the comment was on that. And I did this, like for the classes that were geared for writing. But I noticed that I didn't do it for the low level classes, for the low and the intermediate, where the focus was on listening and culture. Then I didn't do that stuff. Occasionally, if somebody wrote something that was not quite right, I would just write back the correct way to write it, because I felt that I feel at those levels, they're not able to take, the cognitive load of trying to figure out what that abbreviation means and then go to some other chart, if that they weren't going to make anything of it. So for the lower levels, I just say, oh, we use ing when we use I can't stand something. So I can't stand hearing loud noises with an ing. I would put the edited version in. So do we have any other questions or comments or resources to share?
I would just say that I put in a link to justtheword.com in the chat section. That's been a really interesting online free resource, and it allows you to find collocations very easily in the browser.
Oh, justtheword.com.
And you have to put little dashes between just hyphen or just dash the dash word.com in order to get the right source.
Okay, I want to just share the screen and then you tell me whether we can do an example together.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, so here it is. Oh, yeah. What do we do with this? Oh, do you see my screen?
I don't see it yet.
Oh, I don't see it yet. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
You
So
see
in the web browser, you could put in any word at all. You could put in the word footnote. You could put in the word tutor. You could put in the word audience. Any word could go in there. And then it should pop up with some kind of collocation. And the longer the green line, that means the more common the collocation is.
Okay, so do you see anything on the screen?
I can see the green line of footnote 2 and a footnote and add footnote.
So that's the word. I put the word footnote in. Maybe footnote is not the greatest thing for collocation. Let's try another one.
You can try lesson. You can try ambiguous. I'm thinking of words that you already.
Let me put the word ambiguous in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it comes. Oh yeah, then it comes up with these clusters.
Yeah.
Word. Okay, so there you get the collocation: ambiguous term, ambiguous word.
And then I think if you actually click an ambiguous word, it'll give you the collocations in true examples and authentic.
Ah, love it. He said a few but ambiguous words about the pieces. Oh, can you see that? Is it showing up on this? Okay. Equally, you might use ambiguous words which your superiors treat as a yeah. Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
I got to tell you, I don't show this to my lower level class because I think
No.
but with my advanced level, I try it out.
It might be, if you're looking for things like words and vocabulary and collocations, let me show you what I developed a series of 200 quizzes that are based on vocabulary existing in written corpora. And if you're interested in doing that, then I will show you. Sunburst Media is my company website. And then there's a place that says Marsha's presentations and free stuff. So if you go there, here is online vocabulary quiz. And they are from 1 to 200. So if you go into a quiz, let's just go here. Then here are these words that you're supposed to put into the blank. So which word fits into these phrases? One of these words will fit all of these lines of text. Who wants to go for it?
I'll go for it.
Okay,
Oh.
say it.
So
Say
I
it
think
aloud.
he was speaking to workers who wanted higher pay.
Okay, let's try putting the word who in here. All right. Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
Yeah, you see that? Okay, so how about this one? Shout it out.
Can you show us the word list again?
Sure enough. Do you see in the drop down?
From?
Oh yeah, from.
From? Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so is that cool? These are called multiple concordance vocabulary. So these are lines of text that are in the corpora that have been developed. And so I just took that and made quizzes out of it.
What site is that?
So, okay, if you go to Sunburst Media, okay, go to Sunburst Media. This is my company. This is where we sell books and DVDs and software and blah, 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 great games and stuff like that. But we also have free stuff. So if you go to the place that says my presentations and free learning materials, that's this page. And then you can get here. And that's where these are. Well, you know what? We are probably needing to stop and say goodbye so you can go off and just plan your lessons and figure out how you could use
Thank you so much, Marsha. This was great.
See you around. I am doing another session at 3 o'clock, so if you want to come back to the same station, same presenter, different topic, it's on Zoom basics.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.